fear don't make us who we are. So I'll dream until I make it real, and all I see is.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Mentorship Mondays with Michelle and Marin. And today we have another exciting episode for you. And actually, this one is a really good topic. But first, Marin, I'd like to ask you how you're doing.
I am doing really good. We had a really nice weekend for Father's Day and got to hang out with family. It was great. What about
Yeah,
you?
same. We had a good time with family, and I had a few days off. So it was really nice just to have a little bit of time to do I'll say my normal stuff. My, not normal. It's not what I meant. My my day-to-day tasks, things I have to do, those type of
Yeah,
things that I like to not do, but that's okay.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, no, it was good. So we were talking for a couple of minutes just prior, like we normally do. We have like a quick little chat, and you were starting to tell me a story, and I said, no, no, okay, like let's talk about this. Let's talk about this.
Okay,
So I'll let you can start over again, and we'll
okay,
we'll dive in.
okay. Okay, so I had an interesting night last night. I feel like I always do.
Yeah.
So for the past like 3 nights, I've had like woken up with anxiety and I like know it's spirits and I just kind of like protect myself and I'm like, no, I need to sleep, ground myself, and I
Yeah.
like kind of fight through it. And last night and also during the day, I've been feeling like a very specific same, like I get twitches, right? And so I've been feeling this twitch like right here.
Hmm.
And then I've been feeling a twitch in my abdomen. And so I'm like, okay, I know it's somebody's here. Like they're very consistent and they're with me. Like I've got to connect to them tonight. And so last night I close my eyes and I see this woman sitting on a bench, this older lady, she was older. And I was like, okay, why is she here? And I said, are you the one that's been, with me? And I kind of got yes. And I'm like, why are you here? And I got a kind of like a memory brought back to me of another spirit experience where I have kind of got like inundated with spirits. And so I had put them all on an imaginary bench outside my house and like they had to wait one by one for me to help them. And so she was kind of like telling me like I'm on this bench for waiting for you. And so I was like, oh my gosh, she's on the bench. She's waiting for me. Okay, like let me help you. And so I helped cross her over. And then, of course, immediately after, there's another lady. And oh, wait, no. So then afterwards, I was like, sorry, forgot my story. Um, after she crossed, I was like, God, that was genius. Like, she's on the bench. She used the bench. And so that's how I knew to help her. So I said, okay, spirit guides, if you are going to send me anyone else that needs help, because the energy sometimes between someone that hasn't crossed and someone that has crossed is like very similar. When like something bad has happened, I feel like it's a little bit deeper and it's
Yeah.
easier for me to feel the difference.
Uh-huh.
But when it's just like, like that normal old lady, it was really hard. So I said, whenever there's someone that needs my help, make them sit on a bench so I know that they need my help.
Yeah.
And so versus like, the other night when right, Michael was his name,
Yeah.
Michael,
Yes. Yes.
yeah, his
Yeah.
family came and I'm like, why are you here? Why are you here? Like, who are you?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was so confused. So anyway, so the bench. So then, of course, the second I say that, this other lady comes, I close my eyes and I see this image and this lady is watering her flowers. And and like it's like she sees me and she turns off the water and she sits on a bench. And like it took me a second. I was like, what is she doing? And then I was like, oh my gosh, she's on a bench. She's on a bench.
Yeah.
And so it was not the same looking bench. Like, so like that kind of like
Yeah.
threw me at first. And then I'm like, it's a bench. It works. And so then I helped her cross. And then, and it's so funny because like the first lady, I had seen her, like that was my second or third night of seeing her. I just didn't know. Like, I'm like, hey, there's a lady on a bench. Like, what's that mean? And then, so then I saw that lady, and then I saw this picture, and it was kind of a creepy looking picture because it was like a sepia type, kind of like faded
Mm-hmm.
picture, which like totally looks creepy. But so like every time I would see it, I'd be like, oh, shields up, like white light. Like I don't want to be involved with that picture but it wasn't a bad picture. It's just the genre of picture looks creepy. And so this time I saw the picture, and it was a group of people, and the front row of the people were all on a bench. And I was like, they're on a bench. Oh my gosh. And so I surrounded the picture in white light, and I told them all that to help them pass. And I said, please, because there was a lot of them, and it was a picture versus like an actual person. So it's kind of different, but I've seen pictures of people before. So it wasn't anything unusual. Um, so I said, please show me a sign when you cross, so I know, like I can, stop sending you light and whatnot. So I send them light, bring in the angels, tell them to call on their families, and then I just see this like flash of red go across. My eyes are closed, so flash of red go across my eyes, and then I have like a little tree that I do healing at, and the tree was like really small, and then it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's my tree, like we did it. And so now I just think it's amazing because now I have like a system for knowing, because I've just felt so confused. And like when I first opened up, I was like, oh my gosh, like I need to save you, and I need to save you, and I need to save you. And people were like, you need to put up boundaries. You need to put up boundaries. But I was like, but these are people that need to be crossed. Like, how I've got my boundaries against the evil, but like how, I can't say no to these people.
Yeah.
And then it got to the point where I was getting confused. So then I said, okay, no one for 30 days that needs any healing. I only want regular spirits for 30 days so I can like get a handle on this,
Mm-hmm.
like how to figure this out. And then, and that was actually like just last month. And then, yeah, people started coming back again, and was getting confused. So now I have a system
That is
of
awesome.
knowing how, like when I need to heal and when they're just visiting, and,
Right.
maybe when they're a spirit guide.
And how important, you see how important it is to, like, people tell you boundaries, boundaries, but you see how important it is that you experience that you went through that process, because, someone can tell you to do this, but you have to walk through the process. And that's the thing with all of this. You can learn and heal, or heal. Yes, heal. Learn and hear and experience things through other people, through what you read, kind of imagine what that looks like or what that feels like. But it is walking through these experiences of okay, I don't like that, or I don't know what to do with this, or how do I deal with this. It's it is your work is working through these things.
Well, and the other thing too is you say that it's like, I guess I always thought boundaries meant saying no. And
Yeah,
sometimes boundaries are not saying no. It's like setting up guidelines, like,
that's right. That's
like
right. Yeah.
board, like you got, nope, you're got to get sorted over here, and you have to get sorted over here. And that's my boundaries. So
Yeah, boundaries can be a really harsh word. Like when we say boundaries, it can almost come across as a negative thing. But
yeah,
but boundaries really are, like you said, they're guidelines. They're like when you're working with me. So I've got my guides. I've got when you come to me and we're speaking to spirits. The same thing can be said when we're speaking to our guides and asking for help to help organize people that are coming in the physical to see us as well. There are things that we can also place, like, for example, we've talked about this before, like saying, this is how many clients I would like to work with at this time. This is where I'm comfortable. I'd like to always have this number. And
yeah.
again, that changes as you grow, as you evolve, you start to change the things that you require. And that also can be put into our day-to-day life with our own our own personal growth and what we do, we have to learn through our experiences and our interactions with people to understand what is okay with us and what's not okay. And where we start to get tripped up is when we start to think for other people and assume what they need. We start to flex our own boundaries and not, or we'll say our own guidelines.
Yeah.
And then we start to allow people to kind of do whatever on the outside. So our boundaries with spirit are just as important as our boundaries in the physical, in our relationships.
Yeah. And it's so interesting how quickly it happened. Like in my mind, I was like, oh yeah, that's great. Give me the bench, thinking like tomorrow night or 5 nights from now, I'll see someone else with the bench.
Yeah.
And it was like
Yeah.
instantaneously, here's another person with the bench.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about too, like, I want to have so many clients or I want this, that should happen instantaneously, right?
Well, I
Or
mean,
you
it
have
depends
your
on,
physical world that you have to.
right. Like it depends on where, like I could say that, yes, like you're in a place right now where, yes, that is true because you've already worked through an amount of, we'll say, stepping into the closet. You're already working with clients. So you're in this place where you're able to say, okay, I've now done some of this work, and this is what I would like for this next chapter. This is what I know I would like. Because here's the thing, there's going to be some things that we think we want that end up not being what we really need. And we come to that conclusion through the process of experience.
Mm,
And then there are some things where we just know, yes, this is what I need. And when we know that we can ask for those things, that we can put it out there and it will happen. And
mm,
this is also learning about creation and about being a creator, because when we are creating things that we are aligned with, when we come into alignment, and that is a vibrational, energetic, because that's what we are, we're vibration and energy. When we come into alignment with these things that we're asking for, yes, they will happen. So you are in alignment energetically right now with how many, or with clients coming in, with people coming in, you're in alignment. So if you make that choice and say, this is how many I would like, then yes, you will see that start to come into fruition because you're in that vibrational space. Now, for somebody else that say was asking the same question and they were in a space right now where they still had some learning they were going through, not to say that learning means you can't be helping people, because that's not true. Learning is something we consistently do, but maybe you're in the beginning stages. Like, so depending on where you are vibrationally and what your specific goals are, because not everybody's here to do the same thing. So depending on where you are vibrationally to where you want to be in your purpose or in whatever you are creating is. So anyway, I just don't want people to say, if I write this down, it's going to happen right now.
I agree with that. You're right. It has to do with vibration and just physical earth moves slower than everything that is
Yes, yes,
spiritually, metaphysically happening. And
yes,
it's almost like too, it's like maybe they had, because she's been there for like 3 nights. It's almost like they were like, okay, is she going to take the bait? Is she going to take the bait? Is she going to figure it
yes,
out?
yes,
And then it's like, I figured it out. And they were like, finally,
yes.
here's shit people.
Yeah.
Like,
And how did you feel when it, like, because I can feel a surge in your energy in that experience of like that realization of like, wow, okay,
yeah,
that's great. Like that works. And like
yeah.
having that realization of that coming together is amazing. And there's so many gifts in that because that's a vibrational expansion. When we are continuously working in the ethers and we're working with non-physical energy, when you hear gifts and you do this and you get a gift, or you do this and there's like some kind of prize at the end, yes, things do happen in the physical, but a lot of times what happens, well, actually not a lot of times, every time you reach a, a mountain, and that mountain could be, for example, you dealt with somebody in your life physically that was creating a lot of grief, and you were able to tell them how you felt. And let's say you had gone on for years and never been able to do that. You're going to experience a vibrational expansion after that, which means you're going to be in the most aligned place within yourself when you're able to speak truth. The very same thing applies for when you're working in the ethers and you are having either an aha moment, something has just clicked and come together, or you understand something deeper, you work through this spiritual practice and you feel growing, and all of a sudden, boom, something takes place. All of these things that we continue to do, we receive these financial. Boy, that was a slip. I was just gonna say because that's the same. It's because it is the same vibration as financial abundance. But when you experience that flow, you then receive an abundance of growth, and we can go through these like little periods of growth, and then we can go through these great big expansions, and that's when all the new stuff comes in. Because when you start to get practiced in one area, then all of a sudden something new comes in and you're kind of building back up again, but you're always building onto, right?
Mhm.
It's like that never ending story, which I wonder if the people who wrote Never Ending Story understood the never ending story. That's kind of what this is.
Yeah, seriously. When
Mhm.
you asked me, how did I feel? And then you related it to someone like not sharing their feelings and then sharing their feelings. And it's funny because I felt that like when personally, when like I don't share my feelings, I just feel so tight, and
Yeah.
then because it's like the anxiety and the buildup of like, I gotta say this and I don't want to say it, and then you
Mhm.
like finally say it and there's like this
Yes.
release or this like rush, like, oh, I feel so much better. And like the discomfort, like you could just feel it like wade
Mhm.
away. And it was kind of like that, like,
Mhm.
because I had so much confusion of like, are you here? Are you not here? I'm just going to block you out. Like, there was that, like, I'm not going to communicate with you tightness. And then I figured it out and I'm like, whoo, and there it was an
Yeah.
expansion,
Yes.
release.
Yes.
So yeah, so I felt that.
And you'll find that you'll have this nice pathway, because that'll be something, right? I'm just hearing like you master
Yeah.
different experiences, you become very good at it, and then you start to master something else. And this
Yeah.
lifetime, for many of us, we're here to master ourselves. We're here to clear that karma, but we're here to master ourselves. We're here to master our emotions and
Yeah.
be able to steer our own emotions so that we can then reach out and help others do the same,
Yeah.
which is part of why we're here. But now something I also wanted to ask you, because you have a very interesting perspective on emotions and communication, and on how that relates to spirit. And I wanted to ask you, what do you think? And maybe for people that don't know, I know you've talked about it a little bit, but can you tell everybody what you do for like
Oh,
for
sure.
a career besides mediumship?
Yes. So I'm a speech pathologist. I have worked in hospitals with older patients that have had strokes, traumatic brain injuries, all the way down to preschool, new kids learning language and developing language. And then also, offshoot from that, I work with children who have autism, low functioning to high functioning. And with them, I work on emotional regulation, which I'm super passionate about. Finding ways to calm your body that is very organic, which it is like so miraculous that it kind of like it helped, I think, me build up to my spiritual awakening, and then also like support it even more. Like I see so many ties between emotional regulation and like everything I do for like chakra work and meditation.
Mm-hmm.
They are so hand in hand. And it's like, you don't even realize like what, like it's so cool that this information is getting out mainstream, really, is what it is.
Yes.
And it's funny that I learned the breathing and the meditation strategies via spirituality, and then I get to use it and put it into my
Yeah.
work, which is
Yeah.
so cool.
So what would you say, what have you noticed from working as a speech pathologist to doing mediumship? What have you noticed that are the core, of course, the breathing and everything, but are there core pieces that you've picked up that have made it, say, smoother or recognizable for you?
So I think that because I'm a speech pathologist, is really the only reason why I am a medium, because I could do the little cookie crumb steps from, not being able to speak to spirits to being able to have like full on conversations.
Yes.
And it's because there are so many similarities between, so we'll first start, there's so many similarities between language development and all the early childhood stories you hear about, like kids and their spiritual encounters. So there's a theory that we have about how language is developed is that you have, or how you develop your speech, is that like little babies, they babble and they make lots of little sound movements with their mouth, right? Mm-hmm. And then if any of them sound like an English sound, we as English speaking parents would be like, oh, you just made the B sound. You just made the B sound, ba, 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 and you reinforce that sound. Yeah. And same with someone from a different language would, be like, oh, you just made, the such and such sound, and reinforce that sound. Yeah. And so that's how they say. So then the sounds that, if that English child made that other language sound, then it wouldn't get reinforced. So they would stop using it. So it's all about like the reinforcement is what brings the sounds in. And similarly, I feel like we have these kids who come in and they're highly open and they're seeing all of this spiritual stuff. They're seeing orbs, they're seeing auras, they're seeing spirits, they're feeling these emotions. But what's happening is it's not getting reinforced. So we don't talk openly about all these spiritual experiences with kids because we weren't talked about it as kids. Mm-hmm. And two, we don't talk about emotions with kids. We know happy, sad, and mad, and that's it. Like I remember when they don't teach you how to teach emotions in grad school. And then they're like, oh, here's your, caseload full of autistic children, teach them emotions. And you're like, I don't know. And I remember I got like the list of emotions and I was like, how do I teach frustrated? How do I teach indifferent? How do I teach chaotic? How do I teach cross? Like, how do you teach, how do you teach like embarrassed from shy? Like, so anyways, we don't talk about emotions. So if you don't use it, you lose it. That's what we say in speech. And also, super interesting. They studied the children, the feral children from Russia. There's like a famous story famous study about the feral children from Russia, and they learned that if children do not learn language by the age of 7, they'll never learn language. They'll never be a fluent speaker. It's like the language center gets shut off and it won't happen. And I just think it's so coincidental that we always have these childhood spiritual stories. And then it's like we always say, oh, by 7, kids lose it. And so I'm like, does that have to do with that language development theory where if you're not being reinforced with this language, you don't use it, you lose it? That's very interesting that there's that same timeline.
Well, they see that when it comes to like experiences of trauma and mental health, that there are 2 time frames that are so important in development, which is 0 to 7 And then there's another opportunity around, I think it's around 12 or something. Don't quote me on that because I don't know for sure, but I know definitely is 0 to 7 for
Mm-hmm.
development. So I mean, it makes a lot of sense. And of course, when it comes to when you said reinforcement, that's exactly it with spiritual, um, just being around or understanding spiritual concepts, and not even, Eric's just saying to me, not even calling it spiritual concepts, but understanding our emotions, understanding our how we operate, why we operate. And I mean, this is getting off on a whole other topic. This would be another good topic for another time, but um, many generations have not understood a lot of things from 0 to 7. So these
Yeah.
generations are then teaching the generations that are coming up, which is part of this whole awakening process. It's like kind of busting that elastic band of everything that has been restricted and tightened, and
And
allowing all of that organic, this is how you come into the world. This is who you
yeah.
are to really come out. But and it's getting a little off topic, but I think
Okay.
that that
Yeah.
is fascinating.
Isn't that
It
fascinating?
is. It is
So
very.
So then so that's language development, which is like half of what we learn as speech pathologists. But then we learn what happens if something happens like a stroke
Mhm.
and you have to relearn language
Right.
and how that comes in. And that to me mirrors my language development with spirit
Mhm.
and how I kind of trusted the steps of what I was
Yes.
doing with spirit.
Yes. Yep.
So
That makes sense. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
So the first thing was just like what we always do is like you always have to have like very basic, you always have to have like a yes no system.
Yeah.
So I remember my first thing was just a yes no. Like, are you there? Are you not there? And honestly, I never got a no. I never had like wasn't like you're hitting my left arm for yes and my right arm for no. It was just like I would feel something for yes and then
And
like
nothing for
nothing
no.
for no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is like that's totally fine. And I don't know. And so the other thing too, I guess, which is so interesting is cochlear implant patients.
Mm.
So how this is like so incredible how like when a cochlear implant patient like first puts on a cochlear implant, it just sounds like beeps. That's it. It's just like dashes and beeps. Yeah. It doesn't sound like language.
Huh.
Your brain has to interpret, and it's quick because you have a baseline of language. Again, everything's about having that baseline of language. But your brain, it stimulates the neurons in your brain, and your brain takes that and translates that into language over time. So it takes time.
Okay. So,
Is
okay,
that
yeah,
exactly what spirit does?
yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And Eric's here. I'm sure you felt him here. But Eric just said to me, and Michelle, he says, what was the first thing that you really learned? It was when they're present and when they're not. When
Yeah.
are you here? Are you not? The yes and the no. That is the basic. And over time, because, and this is for myself, and I know many others, but for myself in hearing and developing language came from receiving those single signals over and over,
Yeah.
and through the body, the signals through the body, and developing them into a language, which we've talked about many times, about all of these different systems that we have that develop in a language, but it takes time to be able to do that. Would you say that that was very similar to what you're saying?
Oh, exactly. I mean, because that's what spirit is. It's an electrical pulse, right? Because like that's our chakra systems is all
Yes.
like this electrical energy and
Yes.
on our auras. And somehow, I don't know what they do over on the other side, but somehow they mess with that and our body takes it in and translates it into language. And so at first, yeah, you're just getting like I would just get like a little tap or a little this or like a see like a tiny little I the first thing I ever saw was what I thought was like my is it pineal? Is that what you say it? Pineal gland. I was like, and I wrote in my spiritual journal, I see an island because it looks like an island. And then it like changed it. I see white light. I see, and it just grew from white light and
Yeah.
my little island to like I see a color to I see a picture of this to a person to an animal to that, like it kind of grew visually, and the same thing it grew auditorily. Like I feel like I heard just my name being called to like I feel like I was, so this is the other thing we do is when patients are learning language after a stroke, we'll give them a sentence starter because sentence starters like help finish the thing. So like if you say I want, they might be able to say like apple, or if you say go to they might be able to say bank or store or whatever. And so like you give them the sentence starter and then they fill it in. And it was almost like I was hearing the sentence starter, like tell her about and then it would end, or like tell her I need or it was so interesting how I'd hear the sentence starter and I'd be like, I hear that, but I can't get that final. And then finally, like one day I could get the final piece to it.
Yeah.
Or like you just hear with language development, like there's a type of language impairment where they can only say the content words.
Yes.
So like they can only get out like the important words, which is great. And that's like another way that I would just get like, like he's saying beach ball. And then they're like, yes, beach ball. Like we always threw the beach ball or whatever, So it's like, I just the way it's like verbatim how you teach language, acquired language, or you teach language after acquired language loss is the exact same way that spirit communication was coming in. Wow. And so, so it was very easy for me to believe that this was going to grow. And then things like, you're like, well, you can only hear one word, but how come you can get, I love you so-and-so or whatever. And it's like, that's also the way that language comes in, is like after an acquired language loss, you have like these phrases that get stuck in, like people might be able to like say their phone number because it's like it goes into a different part of your brain,
right?
Or like the phrases that you say, I'll be home soon, or I miss you, like those come in. And so it's really funny because I every single night I always say you're my angel to my kids, and I always say that you're my angel, you're my angel, you're my angel. And then all of a sudden I started getting these mom spirits, and they would say, she's my angel. And, I'd be like, did she ever say that you're her angel? And they'd be like, no, they never said that. And I'd be like, I don't know. I don't get it. And then one night I was saying, you're my angel to my kids. And I go, oh my God, they say what I say. Like they connected to that like energy of love.
Yes.
And so that's how like I interpreted it. And that's the way it came through. And I was like, oh, so it's like even you get to know, but then once you understand energy, you like understand exactly why you were getting that.
That's
phrase.
Right. That's right.
That's
That's
really
exactly
cool.
right. That's fascinating because I find that spirit uses a lot of our, well, they're building a language with us. So, they're using the energy of anything that we're experiencing, to express something to their loved one. And sometimes it can be, and that's why you never want to discount anything. I laugh because I have one lady that I see, and I love her and her son in spirit. And he shows me things, like, because he gives messages to all his family members, and he'll show me things, and I'll kind of say, okay, but no, like everybody shows birds. Everybody shows. So they always show me that stuff. I'm like, can you give me something better than that? So I'm like negotiating with him in my head, like, how about something better than birds? And he wouldn't let it go. And like, I turned to his mom and just said, well, I'll just tell you everything that I'm getting because I said he just keeps showing me birds. And I'm like, no, can you give me some different birds? His mom is like, yes, that's what I was waiting for you to say. And I'm
Oh
just
my
like,
gosh.
yeah. And he wanted his dad to hear something. So he's saying now, repeat after me to me. And he says, um, make sure you tell dad that Michelle does not listen to what I have to say. And like I was repeating it and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Like you're making fun of me. It got me to repeat it. But what's interesting, what you just said is, and tell me if I'm wrong with this, but I feel like with spirit, there'll be different areas of our brain that some things will come in clearer or like for example in that moment that sentence coming out verbatim, but that's not how I continuously experience like saying it in that way. With that particular spirit, I do it more often because I'm very accustomed to how that spirit works, and they with me because I work with them a lot. But there'll be some that'll work in different ways, and I know all spirits are different, but I'm feeling by what you're saying is that there are, and maybe it's blockages that we have too, I'm not sure, but there are different areas of our brain that we might I don't know if I'm getting this right, like hear in sentences, and in other ways it's like you're not hearing in the words. Am I making sense here with how I'm breaking it down?
Um, I'm a little confused, but I do have something similar. So I don't know if this is like exactly what you're saying, but there's something in language, well, like part of our language disorders is called like paraphasias, when you're trying to say something, but something else comes out instead.
Uh-huh.
Like, um, like you're trying to say door, but you have a paraphasia, so you say dead. Or you have a paraphasia, so you say window. So like one, it sounds like it, and one, it has a similar meaning. I feel like that happens to me a lot
Okay.
when
Yeah.
during readings, when like I get something and it's like similar but it's not the same,
Yes.
and
I
I'm
get
like,
that a
oh,
lot with names, and that's specifically what I had in my head that I didn't speak out loud when I was trying, which I probably should have. But I was thinking about names in particular because I'll get these sentences, or I say it more like it's like I'll get the words and then it's like a download, you
yeah,
know? And so um there might be certain words that I'm getting verbatim, but I'm filling it with the other sensations that I'm getting,
yeah,
right?
I get that too, where it's like half word, like it'll get like a few words and then a picture and then a few words
Yes,
feeling,
yes,
and yeah,
yes.
I'm like, oh my gosh, how do I wrap all
Yeah,
that up in words?
right.
And I loved what Michael said last week, where he was like, you're learning how to translate energy into words. And that's
Yes.
really what you're doing. And that's,
Yeah.
you know, trial and error
It
and
is.
practice.
It
And so
is.
that is like, I'll say my final note is with speech pathology, it's like you have to go to speech, in the hospital, you have to go every single day. And you get to rehab, and maybe get to go 3 times a week if you're doing good, 5 times if you really need it. And same within the schools. Like you either have to go 2 times a week, 3 times a week, 4 times a week if you're in the.
That's right.
And so it's all about practice. And that's what makes you better, is having the practice, but not just practice, but like, this is why you can't just say, hey, take this list home and practice this. You have to have someone giving you that feedback, which is why it's so important to practice with a partner.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to be vulnerable and get yourself out there and practice with
Yeah.
a partner.
Yeah. But
So,
and but that's a really good point, and that's a really good point to leave off on. Um what is wrong with me these last few times? I'm like, I can't talk about spitting out the wrong letter. I can't even spit out my words. I'm like, hi, welcome to okay. But no, that's a good point to leave off on, which is it comes down to practice too. Like it's what we put in. And so what we invest, we're going to get back out. And
Okay.
investing in yourself, investing in your communication with spirit, it is a process. And just like speech pathology, I'm sure you could tell many stories of the frustration that people have in working through that, and the commitment that it takes to do that. And it's not easy. And I've often thought about that with my father. My father, he sounds like he's had a stroke. He has ataxia, which is a neurological disorder like MS. And um, when I speak to him, I'm not speaking only at his words. I'm very used to reading him. So it's much easier for me to communicate with him. But he was a really big help to me when I was practicing. Same with Marcus, because there's a lot of telepathic type communication that goes on and filling those spaces. And I
Yeah.
really noticed that when I was learning like in the beginning and still. So thank you for sharing that because I think that is an absolutely incredible connection and so
Yeah.
important. And I know that you could probably go on for a long time with it because it's deep and I wish we could. But on that note, guys, it is time to close up for another Monday mentorship with Michelle and Maren. And thank you, Maren, for sharing that with
Yeah.
us.
I hope that it helps people just build the bridge of, like I'm here, but maybe one day I'll be here, and
Yeah,
they feel, confident in where they
yeah,
are and that they can continue to go
yeah. Because
going
there's
and keep.
it's no club. It's no club. It's no one person can do it, another person can. If you're here watching, then this is for you. You can do it. So hopefully some of these tips and things will help you. And on that note, we will see you next time at the same place, same time next Monday. Have a good week, everybody. Bye,
See you later.
Maren.
So, bye, Michelle.